Hello, everyone. So over a period of 2 months, every week, the teams at Microsoft presented various exciting topics from Terraform Landing Zone to Microsoft Purview to advanced analytics. And the core focus, as per the name, was data. We looked at it through many different perspectives, from modeling to ingestion to scaling. Today, we'll look at another type of data, the one coming from the entire product lifecycle, from pushing to your repository, to DevOps, to CI/CD pipeline, to operating and running workloads and infrastructures. And these data, as you are aware, are logs and alerts and events. Large environments for our customer would generate terabytes of data and logs every single day. And it's a really critical information to ensure the customer data and enterprise data are kept safe. So the challenge, like any large data set, is to make sure the relevant piece of data is surfaced for the analyst or for the SOC team to review and act upon. Next slide. I can't see the slide, so, well, that was the slide. So we are the last one in the journey, as you can see. Today is 2nd of December, and we're going to talk about securing your infrastructure and visualizing your threat. Next. So at Microsoft, we see sustainability and humanity's response to climate change as one of the greatest challenges of our lifetime. We believe it is not too late to plan for a greener and cleaner future. So with Azure, we have committed to put sustainable technologies at the heart of our innovation. And you can see that in the way we design our data centers. As part of our commitment to sustainability, Microsoft Singapore will be planting a tree for every person attending this meeting. Now let's get into the housekeeping rules, as you can read there. So the session is going to be recorded, it's going to be available on demand afterwards. You can ask questions throughout the sessions. You can use the small question mark icon in the Q&A panel to be able to ask your questions, and we invite you to do so. Please ask questions so we don't feel like we just talk to each other and to the screen. There will be, at the end of the session, a 10-minute Q&A session where we'll try to solve the questions and answer your questions and as many as possible. As an attendee, you can indeed watch the live stream, but you can't, unfortunately, use your audio or your video. So you really have to use the Q&A panel for questions. Now on to the panel. So our speakers and moderators today are all from the customer success team, and more precisely, the security solution area. The division was created last year and is aligned with the pledge that Microsoft made on spending 20 billion on cybersecurity. This is a topic that is front and center for all companies from SMEs to large multinationals. And successful attacks, as you know, are very frequent and many made the headlines in the past few months. So our speakers today will be Dr. Khan. She's a cloud solution architect in the cybersecurity team. And at Microsoft, daily activities essentially involve working with large customers in APAC to strengthen their security posture, whether they have workloads on Azure or multi-cloud or hybrid. And as you will see in the coming minutes, she's very passionate about Sentinel. Our moderator is Michelle. She's a customer engineer, again, in the cybersecurity team, and she supports our customer in APAC in the design, training, and implementation of their Microsoft security solutions. And she's very much an expert as well. And I'm your host, Nico, and I head the cybersecurity team. Now I'll hand it to you, Khan. You are on mute, Khan.
Thank you, Nico, for introductions, and thank you, Michelle, for being a moderator. Respond to the chat message today. She's really technical. You can call me Gan. I'm a security CSA, so I'm going to be the main presenter for today. So as Nico mentions, this is the last session. So I want you guys to enjoy the last sessions of DataFest. Event. And today the session is not going to be about the data. It's not going to be about machine learning. So it's going to be all about security. Sorry to say that. Hope you guys enjoy. And the key takeaway today, we would like you to understand a bit more about cloud security, Azure security, and how you have more visibility, know what's going on in your infrastructure, plus how you secure your infrastructure. Doesn't matter, you are a developer, you are security analyst, you are network engineer. So how you can do that to secure or improve your security posture in your environment. All right. If you have any question, feel free to drop your message anytime. And as Nico mentions, we lock last 10 minutes of these sessions for you guys. If you want to have interactive Q&A sessions, like we can discuss around that time as well. I'm gonna try to manage the time to have enough Q&A sessions. All right. So why we still talking about security, right? Since I was born, right? People talking about security, why we still say it's really hard and challenging, right? If you know right now, attackers, certificated attackers, sometimes we call advisories, are really super smart. Like 5 years ago, you heard about ransomware attack, right? Everything's managed by machines. That's why it's fast, scale, and it's really hard to detect, right? Recently, they have human-operated ransomware. How smart it is. So it's not, managed by machine only. At the in between the attack, they stop by, managed by the machine, and they use human being to interact with the victim or target, and then go back to machine operated again. How smart it is. So why they want to doing that? Because they try to escape from smart detections and solution as well. So they're smart, we smart. So that's why it's really challenging. Right? And because of that complex, smart attacker, challenging attacks, so one security tool never been enough, right? One firewall never been enough. So because of that, we tend to use a lot of security tools, somehow getting more complex. Somehow those security tools not work together very well. Somehow it's not working together or fully integrated with your environment as well. So it's end up we have patchwork security, right? And it's a messy one, and actually it's reduce your security posture as well, and it create more risk, right? And now in this era, like we connect to everything. It's not only corporate network, right? You connect to the cloud, you connect to another PaaS service, you connect to another SaaS service, you open for the connect to the partner environment. Everyone work from home. So its attack surface is huge. So many noise, so many signals, so many activity. That is another challenge as well for security people. All right. So that's why we need a very fully integrated security solutions that provide defense in depth. Right? What does it mean by defend in depth? It means like you have to have security capability or safeguard every single layer, right? To reduce the risk as much as you can, right? One is not enough. So with Azure Security, we provide fully integrated security solutions across all security pillars. I'm not going to talk about each security pillar today. I don't want to give you lectures, but I just want you to understand that how many skill pillar do we have? And when you want to protect something, you have to touch every single security pillar to ensure that it's safe, right? The first one is identity and access management. Sometimes we call IAM. The second one is security management, threat detection, protections, app security, data security, and network security. I can give you example to easy to understand what each pillar means. For example, you have a web server, right? For identity and access management, it's all about who can access your web server, right? When they can access your web server already, what they can do with your web server, that is identity and access management area. Security management is like how you know that web server is healthy in terms of security. Threat detection and protection around how can you have visibility around web applications? How can you know that threats happening? How can you detect them? App security is about code security at application layer. Data security is about the data, right? The data that your web server using is encrypted or not. Like, do you have any unauthorized user access your encrypted data or not? You have to have that visibility as well. The last one, network security, straightforwardly, like how can they access your web server through the network, right? All security pillar with Microsoft Security and Azure Security, we have all security solution to cover that pillar. Today, we're gonna focus on only two pillars, which is security management and threat protections. All right. To map with security solutions that we have with those two pillars, security posture management and threat detection protections, you're gonna heard about two solution names that we're gonna talk a lot today. The first one is Microsoft Sentinel, right, which is our cloud native SIEM solution. SIEM is security incident information and event management. And another solution that we're gonna talk a lot today is Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Right, you might curious why Microsoft Defender for Cloud like pop out into security pillar. Before we have two security solutions, the first one called Azure Security Center, ASC, another one called Azure Defender. We just recently announced and rename the solution to be Microsoft Defender for Cloud and combine those two solutions, Azure Security Center and Azure Defender, to be together and call it Microsoft Defender for Cloud. That's why you see like Microsoft Defender for Cloud touching two pillars, right? You're gonna know a bit more about these solutions later. All right, let's talk about Sentinel. I hope you're aware that why we need to have SIEM solutions or SOAR solutions, right? I give you a bit some background. So you have a big organization infrastructure. It can be hybrid, right? Cloud connect to on-prem and then also connect to another cloud as well. You have a group of server, you have a group of data storage, you have a group of user network components, and everyone like running, right? And everyone generating a lot of data, which is log. We call security signal. Right? You as a security person, right? How you know what's going on is huge, is complex, right? So you have to have centralized solutions or toolset that collect all of those signals in your organizations and try to identify threats, you know, amongst those logs that you're collecting. And once you get some incidents, you need to respond as well. That is the benefit of SIEM solutions. All right, and Microsoft Sentinel is our cloud native SIEM solutions, very intelligent, that allow you to easily, fastly, efficiently collect all security signal from your environment. It can be hybrid environment, as I said, and then detect threats on the top of the threat on the logs that you're collecting using threat intelligence, right? Using machine learning technique and heuristic rule behind that, right? And then once you detect something, Sentinel also provide a platform for you to do post-investigation as well when you see some incident happen and then respond, right? Everything can do through one portal. It's easy, it's save time for your security analyst or security operation team. It's cloud native, so meaning that you don't need to concern about the storage behind, infrastructure behind. It's scale out for you, right? It's up to you. We can add much as data in Sentinel and it scale out for you. And it's not working alone. If you have another tool, for example, if you have another ticketing system tool like Jira Ticket, ServiceNow, right, you can easily fully integrate with that as well. If you want to ingest another data sources from firewall, third-party firewall, you also easily integrate that as well. We support that. All right. Let's have a look at the Sentinel dashboard, right? This is a common dashboard that security operation team looking every day, right? You can see from the right side. So this is like you keep ingesting security data, right? In technical term, we call event, right? Security event. You can see that how much security event coming through Sentinel, how many alerts here, right? How many incidents here, and where are each incident located based on the locations. So basically give you a big picture and quick view to see what's going on in your organizations and where the incidents are, right? This is just a landing page of Sentinel. Let's talking about data connections, right? It's the first feature of Sentinel. If you remember the flow of security operation workflow, like collect, detect, investigate and respond. Let's talking about collecting the data. As I mentioned before, you can it's connected with all Microsoft solution, Azure solution. For example, if you have workload in your O365 environment, you use Office, you have the workload in Microsoft 365 environment, you use SharePoint, right? You use Teams, or maybe you use Google Cloud, Google Drive, Box. You can fully integrate those data source to Sentinel. We have more than 120 pre-built data connector that allow you to easily onboard those data source to Sentinel just few clicks. All right. And it's not only those solutions, as long as the log are in the standard formats. For example, syslog, CEF log for security solutions, like you feel free, you can ingest to Sentinel easily as long as the format is common. All right, and we already proved, right? As I mentioned, it's scale elastic for you. So we proved already if you have more than 10 petabyte per second is per day, the data that ingest to Sentinel, you're good. So the performance never been downgraded. So you're good to go. All right, this is just Sentinel data dashboard page that I want to show to you. I kept talking. We have a lot of connectors. It's easy to, onboard those data to Sentinel. This is just a quick look of the dashboard. You can see we have a lot of pre-built data connector for you to onboard to Sentinel, right? It's not only our Azure solutions that we fully integrate with them. So for third-party partner as well, for example, Checkpoint, Palo Alto, or Cisco, it can be another firewall as well. You can easily onboard the data to Sentinel as well. And what I want to highlight here is the data connector that might be relevant for developers, right? Most of people in this call are developer, maybe data scientists. You can see that we have pre-built connector that help you to onboard Azure activity logs to Sentinel as well. If you're not familiar with Azure platform, Azure activity log actually is the API log. Right, everything happened behind the scene is API call. So you can know that this log provide activity or information around, for example, who spin up virtual machine, who create a new Azure cluster, Kubernetes cluster, who remove, who delete your storage account. Those activity you get from Azure activity logs might be useful for you as well to see what's going on there. All right. For S3 as well from AWS, right? CloudTrail from AWS environment, everything stored in S3. You can ingest. We have pre-built connector as well to onboard log from S3 bucket in AWS environment to Sentinel. Also GitHub, Key Vault as well. If you are a data scientist, right, or ML Ops engineer, you always use key to encrypt the data in Synapse, data factory or storage account, right? And you tend to store the key in Key Vault or your KMS, right? You also can ingest audit log of your KMS and or Azure Key Vault to Sentinel as well to see what's going on, who claimed your encryption key, certificate, or secret, storage account as well, SQL database. And lastly, you can even ingest your favorite threat intelligence feed from your favorite TI provider as well. So we already have Microsoft TI at the back end for detect threat for you. But if you have favorite, for example, Proofpoint, CrowdStrike, you also can ingest to Sentinel as well as a one data source to build your own detections. All right. Collecting the data, now talking about detections, right? We have very smart detection engines for you. Our detection engines detect threats using machine learning, meaning that it's smart, it's intelligent, it's accurate because it's less human error, and it's scale as well because machine doing that for you. Our detection engine also detect threats based on heuristic rule as well, correlated rules, right? It's kind of signature based, but it's more complex. You can add queries. You can create rules that correlate across multiple logs sources to detect something interesting for you, right? And we also have user behavior analysis that try to use anomaly detection technique to detect anomalous behavior around user entity identity for you as well. So that is based on machine learning technique, right? And you also can, build your own machine learning as well. for some unique scenarios. Some organization they need unique type. They have unique type of logs, unique scenario. The pre-built machine learning model heuristic rules might not be enough for them. So they have resource. They have their own smart data scientists. They know how to build machine learning. They know how to have machine learning environment. So they can build their own and integrate with Sentinel as well. I'm gonna show you a bit more how to build your own machine learning and integrate back to Sentinel as a detector, like in Sentinel, right? Detections already set. Now it's time to investigate. So if you don't know about security operation tasks before, if you act like a security analyst, right? When you see alerts, right? Basically, security analysts not gonna think that is the real attack or real alerts. They need to investigation. They need to find more data to verify that is the attack. Sometimes it's false positive. Sometimes it's just from another team doing testing, but create suspicious activity. That's why you see alert, right? This is really challenging task, and you really need enough information to help you to investigate an incident. All right. So with Sentinel, you can see on the right side is a dashboard that help you to do investigation. Once you have incidents, you click. You're gonna see severity level. Like for this example, is medium level. And the owner of this incident basically is a security analyst. Like you're gonna see who take responsible for this ticket or this incident, and you can see the graph-based information, right? That is the information that Sentinel provide for you, right? For example, this event is fail login anomaly. If someone try to log in into one machine but fail, it might be attack, right? Maybe they try to change the password, change the username that randomly to get in. When you click, you're gonna see this interactive graph and provide contextual information for you to close the ticket, right? Or to determine that this is attack, who impact with this attack or not, right? We provide this skill, but sometimes this information is not enough. Security analysts still need to go back and query and get some more information. For example, they want to know what time this attack happened, right? With Sentinel, you can do that as well, because all log that you need it behind Sentinel, because you connect the data source to Sentinel already in the first step, if you remember. And then you just need to query and get the information, right? If it's quick, you can do by one query, two query, but sometimes you might need to use Jupyter Notebook if you query and you need to aggregate the result as well, plot something to make you understand more when you investigate about this ticket. We have a lot of pre-built Jupyter Notebook for you to do query as well. So if you're a developer, I think you're familiar with Jupyter more than us, all right? Respond when it's really attack, right? It's time to respond, right? I used to work in an organization before. Responding to a threat is really painful. Why? Because they don't have centralized portal or tool set that help them to respond, right? I can give you example. For example, if you see SSH brute force attack, right? To respond in some organization, maybe they need to call to the server owner, ask them what's going on, any business disruption there. Do you do some testing to your server? That's why you need to remotely access to the server. Can you close the port? Right, maybe you need to run script from another portal to take action to close the port, etc. It depends on the organizations. But with Sentinel, you can do through Sentinel portal using Azure Logic app. So if you're not familiar with Azure Logic app, it's just one solution that is act like controller to control a lot of functions that take action for you, right? Azure functions. So it's kind of, we have a building blocks that you can drag and drop, common functions or common action to respond to a common threat, and then you're good to go. Eventually, you have automated workflow to respond to a particular certain incident. Right? When I'm talking about building blocks, this is just example when you try to build automated workflow to respond to one incident, right? You can see, right? If your security team know already how to respond the flow, for example, if you get this kind of incidents, basically like inform the owner, send the email to SOC manager to get approval, and then you take action. So it's building blocks, as I mentioned to you. So for common incident, common response action, so we have pre-built function for you. You just need to use Logic app to control it, make it happen. All right. But if the response is unique, like you are able to create your own Azure functions as a small box and you plug into the main box as well. So you can do that as well. It's really customizable. All right. So as I said, Azure Sentinel or Microsoft Sentinel is really customizable. You can optimize this as well by bringing your own machine learning algorithms and act like a detector inside your Sentinel. And you can also build a new response or automation package as well. We have a big Azure Microsoft Sentinel GitHub community there, a lot of free notebook there, a lot of free detection rules, analytic rules, machine learning model there. You can connect with them and actually easily to implement and onboard to Sentinel, right? You can optimize this as well. All right. Since we have a lot of developers in this session, so I assume, so I want to share a bit more. If you want to build your own machine learning, right, and plug to Sentinel as one machine learning based detector, right, make it more smart to detect unique suspicious case in your environment inside the log that you ingest into Sentinel. How you do that, right? First way you need to use Azure Databricks, right? You have Azure Databricks instance. You provision it, you have the log on the left side, right? It's called log analytic workspace. Actually, it's a storage of Sentinel. All right, if you're not familiar with another solution called log analytic workspace, actually it's a Sentinel storage that you push the log there. What you have to do, you just need to make the data, right? Training data for your model to be available for Databricks cluster, right? Because everything that happening in Databricks is there, like train model, predictions, normalization, the data, right? To do that, to make the data available for Databricks, you just need to use Event Hub or storage, right? I'm not gonna dig deeper into how to do that, but basically you just need to make it available to Event Hub or storage. And then from the Databricks side, you have model training script, right? Jupyter on the right side, as I show, you have maybe normalization script as well to normalize the data, the training data. You have prediction script as well. It depends if you use anomaly detection technique, so it's going to be anomalous detections, right? The result going to be anomaly score. If you use regression technique, the result going to be attack or not attack, attack or not attack. Once the Spark job was triggered and you get the prediction result, what you have to do, we have a sample script for you when you try to do that. So you just need to write the prediction result back to the original table on the left side, meaning that you don't need to create a new table. The data is the same, right? The log. You just create another table, which is prediction result, right? Attack, not attack, attack, not attack. And then you go back to Sentinel, create a queries rules and tell you, okay, show me or alert me when I see attack record, which is the result of my machine learning model on the Sentinel dashboard. That is how you build your own machine learning model and have visibility around the result from your machine learning model to Sentinel. And you can take action after, it's up to you, right? Or you just want to have visibility around the result of machine learning model that you build. All right, this is one way to bring your own machine learning to Sentinel. Another way we just announced recently, so we Sentinel just fully integrated with Azure Synapse. If you're familiar with Synapse, you can use Synapse as your machine learning environment as well to play with the data, build your own data, and connect back with Sentinel as a detector. It's easy to use, it's fully integrated, as I said. So basically you can spin or create Azure Synapse workspace through Azure Sentinel notebook page. So you go to Azure Sentinel, click notebook, and you're gonna see option how to spin out a new Synapse workspace from there. And we have a lot of sample notebook for you as well to play around with that, all right? All right, we talk a lot about SIEM solution already. So some people ask me a lot, like if we have SIEM solution, why we need another security solution, right? But I would like you to think like if you have a village as your infrastructure, you have a lot of house there, right? SIEM solutions is a CCTV at the village level. So put at the gate. So they can see who coming in, who coming out from the house, who walking around, attack movement outside of the house, right? Because it's CCTV there. But what if something wrong or threats or suspicious activity happen inside the house or at the resource level, right? Your server, your storage, right? Your network inside. How can you know that if you use only SIEM solution? You could not do that, right? I'm not saying that SIEM solution is not good. You need to have those, this high level security solution that give you high level visibility and detect something based on the data that they get. And you also need another solution at the resource level, right? That have more visibility and detect threats at the resource level for you, right? We call that threat detection solutions, or sometimes we call XDR, Extended Detection and Response. With Microsoft, we have one solution for that. We call Microsoft Defender for Cloud. You might not familiar with this name because this is a new name. As I mentioned before, it's like consists of Azure Security Center plus Azure Defender, but you can understand more about these solutions later soon. All right. I want to step back one more step before talking about Microsoft Defender for Cloud. I don't want to talk about solution, but I want to know where it's come from. As I said, you need a solution inside the house at the resource level that have more visibility, right? And identify possible threats or suspicious event for you and respond for you as well, right? So when an attacker, smart attacker, want to attack something, all right? I'm not talking about just port scan and go home and happy to know that which port are open, right? Certificate attacker, what they want basically, they want your data, right? They want to access your expensive data. Maybe they delete your data, they sell your data under the dark web, they encrypt it and ask you for the ransom. That is the most expensive thing in your organization. Why the impact is like, it might kill your reputations, it might cause business disruptions, and you're not going to be happy. Even you think it's clean, how do you know that the attacker is not still in your organization? It's damaged so many things, less confident as well, and you can think that it's insecure from now on. You got compromised, right? The step of the attack, right? We call cyber attack kill chain. All right. So in this diagram, it shows high level of the kill chain. So it's a step. Like in some framework, they have more step. It's not only 4 steps, but I'm gonna give you a very easy way to understand what does it mean for each step, right? The attacker gonna start from the left side to the right side to get what they want. That is the ultimate goal. Exposure is the activity around when the attacker wanna see where is the weak point of the target, the first target. For example, have the house, right? They're gonna see which door is open. The server gonna scan which port is open. Gonna scan what operating system that server using, application, what version, so and check what are vulnerability around that OS and the app or everything inside that server inside your house, right? Once they know, they're gonna try to get in, right? Is go to the next step, which is access. Get in is not enough because that is the first gate, right? They're gonna try to move around, move from house 1 to house B to house C until they get to the house that connect to the data, right? Have right to the data. And then once they move around, we call lateral movement, and then they're gonna access to the data and do what they want. So this is the attack queue chain. So at some point, security people wanna catch this kind of activity. So at some point, right? Of course, you don't want to detect at the last stage. You want to detect at the early stage, but you need these solutions to detect each activity at some point so that you stop from being damaged by this attack, right? So let's go back to Microsoft Defender. Why Microsoft Defender is a good solution for you to do workload protections at the resource level. So Microsoft Defender for Cloud, it has 2 main features. The first feature is security posture management capability. The second one is workload protections, right? Let's talking about the first one first. So Microsoft Defender provide you secure score. What they do behind that is constantly check, right, your environment, your asset, your data, your user, and tell you how healthy it is, right? How you are doing good in terms of security, and also do compliance check for you. If you have some required compliance regulatory standard, for example, CIS or SOC 1, SOC 2, PCI DSS, HIPAA. So it provides compliance checks for you as well. That is the first feature or capability of Microsoft Defender. The second capability of Microsoft Defender is workload protections, right? Doesn't matter it's on-prem, in cloud, or in another cloud provider. The type of the workload that Microsoft Defender Cloud can cover and provide threat detection for use are like servers, like Azure server in your on-prem, AWS EC2, GCP instances, cloud native workloads like EKS from AWS environment, database, storage account, right? And other things like IoT, key vault, and network layer as well. We're gonna go a bit deeper what threats or what kind of security instance Microsoft Defender can detect and help to protect from those for you for each type of resource. All right. Before going that, I want you to look at the dashboard of Microsoft Defender before. So this is Microsoft Defender for Cloud. You can see a lot of information is my overview at the beginning, but as you see the first two box at the top, the first one is security score, and the second one is compliance status. As I said, the first capability is like provide security posture management capability, tell you how good you are. So basically it check all assets in your environment until you come up with the secure score, right? You know, secure score at the end, and compliance check as well. As I said, default, we use the Azure Security Benchmark, which is a standard compliance by default, and you can enable another compliance standard as well. As it depends on what you want, and it's gonna go and check all resources against those standards for you. This box provides you workload protections information, so the number of lots. So of course, when you click, you can get more information around there as well. So this is the first landing page that you can see overview information from Microsoft Defender for Cloud. So for security people, right, you cannot protect your organization infrastructure very well if you don't have inventory list. Sometimes you don't even know. Sometimes when you have incidents, you don't even know the IP address of that compromised virtual machine or server. Maybe you don't know what function of that virtual machine, right? It's FTP server, it's web application server, or it's just testing server. You have to have inventory list to have full visibility and also help when you do post investigation as well. So with Microsoft Defender, we provide inventory list as well, as you can see, right? You can see on the right side, the screenshot, you can see this is the list that covering by Microsoft Defender for Cloud. The asset can be virtual machine, can be storage account, it can be key, secret, certificates, everything that we have visibility. So it's list here. And it's not only showing the list, so actually it's showing the alerts related to each asset as well, so that as a security analyst, you can come and go and see which one you know is high risk, and you can prioritize which one you should have a look first. And this is we just announced, right? If you're familiar with Azure Preview, it's a data governance solutions that help you to scan all data in your organization enterprise and tell you where our sensitive data are, where are your PI data are. And now it's just recently integrated with Microsoft Defender for Cloud, meaning that when you look at the inventory list, we're still in the inventory list, you can see that like, okay, in this storage account, actually it's contained confidential data, it's contained PI data. Why we need information, as I said, when you want to investigate, when you want to prioritize which one you should tighten security, which one you should have a look first when you have a security related incident related to that. So you can use this information to make decision as well. All right, so we talking about the first capability of Microsoft Defender for Cloud, which is our skill score, compliance checks, right, inventory list. Now is the main. Let's talking about the main capability, which is workload protections, right? Workload protections. This is still in Microsoft Defender for Cloud page, but we go to workload protections. You can see this is all resource type that Defender can provide workload protections. Sorry if it's small font here. So server, Kubernetes cluster, container registries, key vault, and ARM's Azure Resource Manager, which is a platform manager, and storage SQL database. So it can show you how many protected resources here that protected by Microsoft Defender for Cloud. And in the bottom is showing security alerts, right? It's not enough. If you click, you're gonna get more information. You're gonna see more detail a bit later, right? For server, right? What Microsoft Defender for you doing for you? When you have a server, doesn't matter is SQL server, is virtual machine, is just testing server. You want to run Jupyter book, any type of server. Like if you ask the security people, what are top 3 recommendations to protect the server, right? So basically, they're gonna say, okay, reduce attack surface. So close the port that you don't want to open, you don't need to use, right? When admin come and need to access to the port, for example, port 22, like it's a dish for maintenance, for troubleshooting, for investigation, or for patching, for update anything. So you just need to give a certain time to that admin to access that server only. Don't open the port 24 hours. In Microsoft, we call just-in-time access. With Microsoft Defender, we have capability to allow you to do that as well. All right. The second recommendation that security people are going to recommend you to do if you want to protect your server is going to be just allow only some required application running in your server. Right, don't allow malicious code or the application that you don't know before running and execute in your server. So basically, you create application whitelist. Microsoft Defender for Server also allow you to do that as well. So why is really important? Because basically, attacker, when they jump into the last victim, right, last target, they're gonna run some script, right, to do a data exfiltrations, right. So if you allow attacker or I don't know, maybe user of that machine run that kind of script, so that means they can perform data exfiltration. So application whitelist is really important. All right. So the last one, you have to have endpoint security, and Microsoft Defender for Server fully integrated with endpoint security, like provide time malware detection, detect suspicious login, suspicious activity. If someone try to use your server to do botnet attack, or someone try to access your server from bad IP, unusual location, unusual time. So Microsoft Defender for Server can help you to detect that as well. Microsoft Defender also constantly doing vulnerability assessment for your virtual machines and SQL server as well. So basically, it's just constantly scan and check vulnerability of your server, right? And it's gonna alert and show you, okay, hey, your server, this one is not safe, right? Because operating system is outdated. Hey, your Apache version is outdated, and tell the list of vulnerabilities, right? So, and then you can have a look and maybe upgrade and take remediations based on the result from the assessments. So with Microsoft Defender, you have a lot of options to do vulnerability assessment by default. Is Quantlist solutions. We fully integrate with them, but you have option to select Microsoft default one, or you can bring your own as well. For example, if you use Nessus vulnerability solutions all the time and you're familiar with it, you understand the result, you can use that as well as a default vulnerability assessment for your virtual machine. All right. So for SQL, also important, it has data there, right? Like Microsoft Azure SQL database managed instance, even on-prem, in AWS, and in Google Cloud, can help to detect as well. For example, if anyone try to do SQL injection, right? A lot of operation, read-write operation in your database. So Microsoft Defender gonna flag for you as well. If someone try to change their policy around assessment to your database, it's gonna flag that activity for you as well. All right. So for storage, right? This is just give you example what we can do for you. This example, someone attacker try to upload malicious script into your storage, right? It can be malware, malicious EXE file, etc. Somebody try to host your phishing domain in your storage. It could happen as well. So Microsoft Defender gonna try to detect those suspicious malicious activity for you and alert, so that your admin can be more aware and then respond. You can do respond through Microsoft Defender or Sentinel. It's up to you, right? container registry. Maybe this is going to be more interested for developer here. Okay, so Microsoft Defender, when you push Docker image into your registry, so Microsoft Defender scan for you, right? At the OS level, application level, any malicious library in a Docker image or not. And it's also scanned at runtime when you download the Docker image as well, right? If they see some vulnerability, you're gonna get alerts, right? It's good because if you deploy that malicious Docker image, so it's not safe. If you use that as a production server, applications, that means you bring all vulnerability that come with the image, right, to the organizations, right? So you can get this capability from Azure Microsoft Defender as well. For Kubernetes, if you understand Kubernetes cluster, right, it's kind of sub environment inside the big environment. They have network there, they have storage there, they have identity management there, they have server there, right? It's really complicated. Actually, attacker love to attack in that cluster because sometimes we trust it, right? Because it's container, we spin out, we can fix everything. So, but actually, it's a lot of vulnerability there. All right, Azure Sentinel can detect those kind of Kubernetes-related suspicious activity for you as well. It support key vault as well, DNS as well, and resource manager. I'm not gonna go to each, but we kind of say that the resource type that Microsoft Defender covering for you is server, SQL server, storage, database, DNS, key vault, and resource managers. Right, it's up to you. You can use one of them or all of them. All right, and with us, Microsoft Defender, you can respond as well, but we recommend you to fully integrate with Microsoft Sentinel by sending alert from Microsoft Defender for Cloud to Sentinel, and you use Sentinel as a centralized dashboard to do investigation and response. So it's easy, it's more clean, but nobody stop you to do response or remediation from Microsoft Defender for Cloud, right? On the left side, it's just from another environment, Microsoft 365 Defender. If you have endpoint log everything, you can send alert to Sentinel as well and use Sentinel as the main dashboard for scale the operation tasks. All right. All right, I think that is the last slide for me. A lot of information to digest. You can check out and get more information, play with Sentinel or Microsoft Defender a bit later. So Microsoft Sentinel is just aka.ms/Microsoft Sentinel. For Defender is aka.ms/ASC. So it's going to be its own name, Azure Security Center. But when you click that, you're going to see the information around Microsoft Defender for Cloud. All right, so I think we have around 12 minutes for Q&A. I'm gonna hand over to Nico, our moderator, for Q&A sessions and another sessions after Q&A sessions. I hand over to you, Nico.
Thank you, Dr. Khan. Thanks a lot for spending the time and being very thorough in explaining what Sentinel and Defender for Cloud is all about. There has been a few questions in the chat. I think Michelle really did a very good job at explaining and providing an answer to all these questions. I think the last one, I will go through that before talking about the survey. Yeah. So the last question was around if for some reason an attacker managed to acquire a key, then what can be done? And the way I can look at it is you have two things. So the first thing is if your credentials or key or anything that is tied to a tenant and then being stolen and then sold on the dark web or any market like that. So Microsoft has ways to actually acquire that. And then you will get notified through different further cloud or other means that the credentials have been essentially stolen and that you should actually rotate the key or rotate your password and so on. So that's one way. The other way, if your credentials are essentially acquired but not resold, is through behavior analytics. So Sentinel will be able to essentially look at the behavior of the user for this specific, what we call the RBAC role, which is essentially the role. So if the credential, let's say, is an administrator access, and we really behave in some erratic way that essentially is not the kind of behavior access API calls that are not used for this specific user, that's going to be raised in Sentinel. So you will be able to see this specific user with this specific privilege is doing these actions, which he is allowed to do or she is allowed to do, but doesn't look like regular actions. So that's another way as well to detect when something a bit odd is happening with a user. It's actually a good segue to another thing to consider, which is really identity. So when your credentials are stolen or keys are stolen, or manage identity or service principal, it's very important for credentials to be able to set them at the right level. So make sure you avoid giving essentially everybody the administrator access, and going as much as possible through process like PIM, which is essentially just-in-time access and just at the right level, so that the administrator or the person who wants to do a specific operations on the platform with some specific privileges is only granted for a specific amount of time. It's approved by one or two managers, and then essentially after that that operation, then the credentials are essentially changed, and the user gets back to regular access. So that avoids problems. So even if someone acquire the credentials, they won't be able to perform any action for the next 6 months or 9 months, which is right now the time it takes to actually go through a long hack or exfiltration of data. So that's the last question, I think, that was in the chat. Anything else we have seen that would be interesting? Is there one question you want to take, Michelle?
Give me a second, my Q&A screen is loading. All right, so I think I can take the other question, the last one. So what will be a quick way to get started with establishing a security baseline? So this is actually a common one which I get from some of my customers as well, because they have this mandate to move to the cloud, right? And then so when you move things in a hazardous manner, like you're in a rush, things are not usually the most secure. So what would be a good way to really quickly get started on establishing a security baseline? So one of the ways that I can think of will be to leverage upon the Defender for Cloud. So within the Defender for Cloud, if you go under the regulatory compliance tab, there's actually a segment called Azure Security Benchmark. So this actually provides you with recommendations on how you can establish secure solutions on Azure. So I think that following through this would be one of the fastest way to get your cloud secure. All right. What other questions do we have? Yeah, so I realized that there's also a lot of other questions as well, which I've answered. So I hope that this actually helps a little bit. I realized that most of our audience here seem to already have some form of understanding of Sentinel as well as a Defender for Cloud and everything. So that's very heartening to see. So always please one of the tips that I always tell my customers would be to leverage upon what is out there. So if you can see within the Sentinel community, there's a lot of playbooks as well as notebooks out there already. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I always recommend my customers to hit there, take whatever is available, and then kind of tweak it to adjust to their needs. All right. Do we have other questions?
Yeah, I think like 3 or 4 new questions, I think. So I think this one we can answer. So how does Microsoft Defender for Server collect data in a multi-cloud scenario? You want to take that, Khan?
Yes, I didn't mention. So actually, so basically, it's agent based. All right. So what happened if you want to onboard one on-prem server, right, to Microsoft Defender for Cloud, or one Microsoft Defender for Cloud to provide workload protection for that on-prem server? You have to do that through Azure Arc. I'm not sure you're familiar with Azure Arc or not. It's another solution that allow Azure platform, right, to have visibility on that on-prem server. Basically, through Azure Arc, you're gonna push one agent to that on-prem server, and after that, it's connect. So it's collect all logs from your on-prem server and send to Microsoft Defender for Cloud. So now Microsoft Defender for Cloud have visibility and can provide workload protection for that on-prem server. For another cloud like AWS, EC2 instance, or GCP instance, instance, it's going to work in the same way, right? You install agent there, collecting the log, and then you get workload protection capability from Microsoft Cloud for server. I hope I answer your question. It's agent based actually. Yeah.
Thank you, Karan.
So I think there's one other question on whether 365 Defender is the same as Windows Defender. Just let me. So I think in this case, because recently there's actually a change in naming convention that kicked in, so they might have caused some confusion there. So right now, Windows Defender is actually rebranded as a Microsoft Defender. So I think that will be something that you were referring to rather than 365 Defender. All right.
Okay. So for this one, I don't know. So there is a question around the fact if Microsoft Defender for Cloud can actually protect AD on-prem and not just AAD. Anybody of you know? Can we use Arc to do that?
There would be recommendations, but then so you actually have to follow through with the recommendations for your on-prem site, so it won't be automated. So for example, one of the recommendations could be for you to deploy the agents, deploy the log analytic agents on the servers, on the VMs. So if you were on Azure, the servers on Azure would have this automated feature whereby if you just click it, it actually deploys for you within the Azure site. But for the on-prem site, you might have to go in to manually put these agents into the servers itself.
Thank you. I think we're almost done with all the questions. So let's go. Yeah, I think that's good. Con, I think if you can move to the next slide. So yeah, so this is it. So that was the last session of DataFest for 2021 around security, logs and events, and Sentinel and Defender for Cloud. I think there is a plan to be back next year, early next year. So stay tuned for more details about this. One thing that is really important to us, because it's the end of the series, is really to give us your feedback, so we can make sure we continue to share interesting and new content. So you will see on the next screen QR code that will appear. So please take the time to scan the QR code and give us your feedback, so we can make sure we bring the right content for you next year. And I think that's it for tonight. Thank you, Dr. Khan. Thank you, Michelle, for answering all the questions and taking the time today to talk more about security, and looking forward to chatting with you again in the future. Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much. Stay safe, guys. Bye.
Stay safe.